Today's session is about Azure Privilege Identity Management. Before starting the session, I would thanks Pune Tech community to give me this opportunity to present this session. This is my first ever session. I've been working on Azure for last 2 years, but I'm glad to be part of this community and present this session. So talking about Azure Privilege Identity Management, this is the agenda that I'm going to cover today in the session. So we'll be talking a bit about what is identity, then go through Azure Active Directory, a bit of Azure AD identity, and then privilege identity management, why we should use it, some key features, and some follow-up sessions, sections that we'll go through, and finally a demo. Demo will try to see if we can make it as interactive as possible, and then some information about how you manage the identity security score and a QA at the end. Yeah, Sharad. Thanks. Anyways, we can connect after also for the demo and more details around it. Okay, so this is the agenda for today, and the way we go with Kanban board, I'll just progress accordingly. So let us get started with our first section of this today's session, identity. Before we go into privilege identity management, let us understand at a very high level what identity is. So in a simple words, anything that is unique and that defines something. Like when you join a company, you get an employee ID. Simple, that's an identity. Similarly, in cloud or in on-prem also, anything that defines something unique about a user is an identity. And that's the simple definition that would like everyone to correlate. And in Azure also, there are different kind of identities for managing different kind of scope of the resources that we interact with. And there are different services also on cloud. So the first one in Azure that manages the identity is users. Any user who gets access to Azure platform or the cloud is an identity itself, needs an identity to log into the platform. It's a representation of something that's managed by Azure AD. Again, when we say Azure AD, it is the Active Directory. We'll come to that as well. Employees and guests are represented as users in Azure AD, and if you have several users with the same access, you can create a group. So if multiple people, members of the same, I would say, team can be part of a group, and then the access can be managed for them. You use groups to give permissions to all members of the group instead of having to assign access rights individually. Very simple, normal way of working across in groups, which we do with our distribution lists also for email. Second form of identity is service principal. It is an essential and identity for an application. So if an application has to interact with different sources or between the application also, earlier we used to have different the way you have Unix Linux user system IDs also created, and those were used with username password stored in the properties file or in the config file. But over here with service principal, we can do more better way of communication between the application. So if you have to communicate for an application, there is an identity called as service principal. We try to use that, and this must be registered with the Azure Active Directory, and it will give us a lot of features once you register with the Active Directory. The next form of identity which has been recently evolved is managed identities. A type of is again a type of service principal only, but the biggest advantage it is managed by the platform on Azure, and it is totally passwordless. Okay, they're totally managed in the Azure AD and eliminate the need of developers to manage the credential. As I said, service principal needs management of credentials storing in the configuration file, and the identities managed identity doesn't need that. That is taken care of the platform. It provides an identity for application to use when connected to Azure resources that support AD authentication can be used without any extra cost. So if even an application has to connect to a resource like Key Vault, which stores all the passwords, right? It can connect to it via managed identity. Even if you have to connect to a virtual machine, you can use managed identity. So during the demo, we'll look at that, because now I have asked a couple of people their Gmail ID. So you can say that Gmail ID also is one of the identity that we will onboard to the Active Directory. Okay, quickly about Active Directory. Azure Active Directory is nothing but, let me go to our Kanban board. I still keep these two topics in progress. Let's go to Azure Active Directory. Okay. So Microsoft Azure Active Directory, it's a part of Microsoft Entra. Recently, they have renamed it. It's all Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management service. So it's one kind of a platform as a service that we can use extensively. There were on-prem Active Directories also, which were really used by many multinational companies for storing their identities of the employees also, and the way the access is to be managed. So that was really extensively used. Similar thing they have now explored as exposed as a service on Azure cloud, and it has got a lot of different features. I tried to compare this with Google also with their identity management system, not much with AWS, but the one which Azure has got has additional features in terms of how you can manage the access, how you can govern the access, and also there are now AI-driven automated risk protection policies that they are enhancing with. That also adds to the features of Active Directory. Active Directory is the next evolution of identity, as I mentioned earlier, an access management solution. It provides organization identity as a service. We have heard of a lot of things as a service, and this provides solution for all their application across cloud and on premises as well. Organization use Azure AD to enable their employees, guests are nothing but external users if they want to connect to your application, others to sign in and access the resources they need, including internal resources such as apps on your corporate network and internet, external services such as Microsoft Office. So if someone needs an access as a contractor to Microsoft Office, if he wants to be part of your team, that all can be managed by Active Directory. So Active Directory is nothing but one centralized location of managing all your identity. Simple as that. Okay, you can refer to Active Directory who also manages on-premises application, on-premises Active Directory. If there is any, it can connect to each other. Some cloud-related applications, SaaS platforms like Microsoft 365, some business partner connectivity, and also the devices. Devices is a more advanced feature that is used in Active Directory to manage all the devices within the network very efficiently. We'll come to that in the subsequent sections in the coming few months. Okay. So this is at a high level about identity followed with Azure Active Directory. And now when we combine both of them, it is called as Azure Active Directory identity. As I mentioned earlier, there are different kind of identities. In managed identities also, there are system assigned identity and user assigned identity. System assigned is nothing but some Azure services allow you to enable and manage it directly on a service instance. Service instance, as an example, again, I would say storage account. If you want to connect to a storage account, you can have a specific identity to access storage account, and everyone who is connecting, say from a virtual machine or an application to store some data on the storage account, they can use a system assigned identity. Coming to the next one, user assigned. Suppose on this today's event, right? Online event, there are 11 people. If 11 people wants to connect to a virtual machine, then their own individual identities will be called as user assigned identities. And via their own Gmail ID or their own email ID, they can connect to the virtual machine. That is an example of user assigned identity. You may also create a managed identity as a standalone Azure resource. Once you create a user assigned managed identity, you can assign it to one or more instances of Azure services. So your user identity, I can relate to virtual machine, to storage account, or to any other services onto cloud. Okay. Or devices, as I mentioned, anything that is connected to a network, and when laptops or might be thin clients, all those can be tried in ID. Even that is one kind of identity because every laptop has got a unique serial number. So that forms an identity, piece of hardware that can be tracked on the Active Directory. Azure AD joined. Okay, this is a bit of advanced topic where virtual desktop concepts comes into picture. You have a virtual machine, and then when you log into virtual desktop infrastructure, which is called as VDI, over there that session and the device or the virtual machine in the background, which by which you connect to the Azure AD is called as joint device. So that helps you to authorize and authenticate your session on a virtual infrastructure. So whenever you're logging into a VDI, virtual desktop, you are having a session which is connected in the background between the AD and the VM in the VDI that is being configured. Again, an advanced topic. I don't want to go much more detail into that, but just to give you a gist that there are 4 different type of identities in the Azure AD identity role. Okay. Okay, let me see the chat. I just go and pause over here for a minute and see if there are any questions. Okay, sure. Rajesh has question. Yeah, Rajesh, I'll come to your questions. I'll go through the sessions quickly, considering the time constraint. But yeah, these are some good questions. We can discuss them for sure. Log into SQL Server. Yeah. Again, that's a VM managed and the service is running on the SQL, right? If it's infrastructure, but PaaS service, we can directly connect based on the RBAC roles. The way we do for an example, I use AKS multiple times. Over there, we have role-based access that can be used. How can you do? Sorry, what's this? Two identities access between the two intra IDs. Sorry, I did not get that question, so I will connect with you offline for that. Second question, I did not understand. I'll come back to that. Okay, so we have done with 3 sections. Anyone, any other questions? If not, I'll just move ahead. Coming to our main topic today's. Okay, so at a high level, we understood what identity is, simple uniqueness of someone that identifies a person or something. Second thing is Active Directory, which is a central repository to store those identities. And Active Directory also has its own different types of identity. Now, these different types of identity on the Active Directory can be managed. And for privilege rules, when I say privilege rule, administrative rules, and there are rules where you can really do a lot of edit and executable actions, right? I'll give an example: virtual machine. I'm just keeping it simple for now. If you have to start and stop a virtual machine, that's an administrative task. So if you have an privilege administrative rule, that has to be managed by a privilege identity management very easily. If it's a user login is simple. A person can log into the user, but he just can look at the logs and access the details around the process running on the VM. In that case, you might not need privilege identity management, but you can still use it. So the whole concept is manage your identities, which is currently configured onto Active Directory by using privilege identity management. So you have a better control over the identities, and every identity will get some kind of role. Again, an example is virtual machine. It has got a user login role, which is a read-only kind of a role, an administrative role for an more of an administrative executive read-write kind of a role. So those roles are assigned to an identity, but that whole assignment is nothing but management of identities, which is very efficiently done in Azure using privilege identity management. Okay, so in normal terms, it is said as a service in Azure Active Directory that enables you to manage, as I mentioned earlier, manage. We can control what access a user or an identity has on a resource and monitor the access to important resources in your organization. So simple, the way you have an office ID, and then the way you access your office via uh, punching in your card. Similar thing works over on cloud, but the more efficient way of managing that via configuration and a lot of different features is done using Azure PIM on the Azure portal. Okay, and why we need PIM now? Coming to this question, right? PIM, anything that is related to identity, it is again linked to the access that is given to your resources. When I say resources, it can be any of the cloud resources or your application running on cloud. Let us take example of AKS, right? AKS cluster has got different nodes, and every node will have their pods with different applications running on it. So you have to control the access to those applications, right? And pretty normal, you have to be having that control, proper governance, and also an efficient way of granting access, revoking access, and editing the access. And that's why PIM becomes very essential. So you have got good amount of control, and Azure really has got enhanced features. The only point to be noted, which I mentioned here in the bottom, is PIM, privilege identity management, requires a premium P2 license. Okay, let us quickly go through this one liner. Organization wants to minimize the number of people who have access to secure information resources because that reduces the chance of malicious actor getting access. Okay, simple example: if there is an production management team who works in shifts, okay, and there are 10 people. Out of that, only 3 people are working in the morning shift, but they are not working on the weekend shift. But production management is a team who has got access to production environment. So they should have elevated access, like administrative access on a machine, so that they can start and stop the process. But if they're not in their shift, why should they have access over a weekend? Because then their access can be hacked by a malicious actor and can compromise the security of the platform. Again, in this case, in the traditional way, we used to give the access till the person is part of the production management team. The moment he leaves that line of business production management, joins some other team, we used to revoke that later on. But still, the person has got 24/7 access to the resources. But when you use PIM, you can give him specific time limit access. Again, whether it should be limited to a shift or limited to weekdays working is something that can be easily configured over here. But the main aim is whatever access you require, you should be granting that access only for this stipulated amount of time that you require. And that's why PIM becomes very important, because malicious actor then cannot really hack it, and then the chance of hacking also reduces because the window is reduced of the access that a production management team has got. Same applies to a DevOps team. Nowadays with DevOps and SRE culture, a lot of developer also has good amount of access into production. That also can be very easily controlled with PIM. Okay. Second thing is an unauthorized user advertently impacting a sensitive resource AKS cluster is the best example, right? If someone has got an admin access to a cluster, he can really destroy the whole cluster and then everything will go for a toss for a line of business. Those kind of very critical, sensitive, elevated access can be properly controlled and only be given access with proper approval process, proper ticketing process, so that you have got segregation of duties as well as least privilege access policy implied. All these things are very important and very easily configured with Azure using PIM. Last thing that I want to highlight over here is, yeah, as I mentioned, with production management, rota-based system, time-based comes into picture, which is very, very important, and approval-based. Like in AKS cluster, if it's an cluster related activity where someone has to restart or do some take some actions on the master side of the control plane, then that access only will be approved by the respective senior members or senior production management SRE team member, based on which the access will be activated. Again, I will come to the activation access related stuff, but at a high level, PIM gives you all these features where you get limited and the required access for a limited amount of time, and that is very essential to protect. And on cloud, security has really become a very big concern and a very big attentive area compared to the on-prem in earlier days. Okay, so that's why PIM is very, very important. Let us come to the key features of PIM, because I want to make you guys understand what are the features, and when we come to the demo, you should be able to correlate the features. Okay, so PIM provides just-in-time privileged access. Take example of production management rota and the team working in the rota. Why they need access on weekend if they are working only in weekdays or in certain 8 to 9 hours of shift. Okay, so that can be very easily configured with PIM with just-in-time access to only the resources that they need. If they don't need access to AKS cluster or a database or an PaaS service with a SQL server running on it, as questioned by Rajesh, they will not get it. They'll get simple access of the virtual machine to look at the logs, to look at the processes, and that should be good enough until unless they have an incident in place, which can be justified. And that restriction can be put via PIM. Assign time-bound access. Again, time-bound access is okay. If there is an incident, we would expect if it's a P1 incident, that person will require 6 hours access with an SLA of 1 or 2 hours. If there is a P2, he might need much more access because it's not urgent to be resolved. That's how the time-bound access can be used over here, so that once the access is provided, you don't have to re-provide him if the window is completed. Like initially I provide access of 1 hour, but the incident is still running for 4. I need to re-provide him. No, we can configure the time-bound access upfront so that you don't have to initiate that access activation process. Also, in certain cases, if there are projects running for migration kind of activities, you can have a start and engage, so you don't bother about the access. These are different features that really provides good control on the identity and the access given to the resource. Okay, use justification to understand why users activate. Simple. Activate is another feature where if I need access to a virtual machine, it's kind of an activation I have to do. I'll come to that in a bit. But justification, there's an incident ID, just add the incident ID with a ticket number or add in information why I need the access. That becomes very important for audit clearance and for historical evidences also why you require the access. And that's another critical aspect of ISO 27001 for any company to comply with. Okay. Get notification, yes. Whenever a user is given access or a user accesses a resource, a notification sent to the admin team and to the user also. So that's another way of notifying that I have requested the access instead of keeping it open. This is again good for audit and also good for tracking if there are any malicious activity going on. Download audit history. Okay, so if a production management team or SRE team is accessing production, but how many members accessed it, why they accessed it, and can this access be, the pattern should be seen, right? If there are no incident, the access request should reduce down, the number of logins should reduce down. All these things of the audit history is very important. Again, for audit trails only. There are a lot of ISO audits that happen, ISMS audits that happen in infrastructure. They look out for this kind of audits. So there are some internal audits, external audits carried out by different teams. It is very essential for them. That's where PIM also provides this additional feature. Conduct some access reviews to ensure users still need the rules. So SRE or a developer, right? Developer is doing a critical feature release. So he's requesting for an access. We would say, okay, you're doing a very critical feature release, we'll give you access for 1 week. After that, access has to be removed. Those kind of reviews has to be done periodically, can be monthly, fortnightly, quarterly also. But those access reviews helps you to clean or clear the access given to certain people for certain specific requirements. Suppose there is an contractor joining for a database team, right, or for a data science team for a short period of time to get the model running, to get the lot of currently if you look at Gen AI kind of implementation, POC kind of phase, you can give him access, and after a week or two, if you forget, suppose the end date is not set to it, but if there is an access review done every month, start of the week, the access review can help you to get rid of those accesses provided to the external user. This is another way of reviewing your access periodically, a good practice. Require approval to activate privilege rules. Absolutely, as I mentioned, if there's some activity for a production management team to take on a case cluster control plane, that can be approved. Such kind of scenarios can be predefined, and the activation process can have an additional approval in place by the senior manager. Okay. Last important thing, Azure enforce Azure multi-factor authentication to activate any rule. Again, MFA is very critical, and even with cloud, when we are trying to access the portal, access any resource, or try to activate any rule, if I need to log into a virtual machine, you should not only be using the password way of logging to the machine, but also can be via Microsoft Authenticator app, which has been suggested start of this year. And if about March onwards, they made it quite mandatory, and there are a lot of rollouts. So the Authenticator app obviously goes with different kind of options, and you have a approval pop-up coming onto your application, which is installed on your mobile, or you get a code also. That code keeps on rotating, and you just have to enter that code, which enables your multi-factor authentication. Okay, so if you look at this five tick box, these are the one that we might try to cover during the demo. The rest three are more advanced topic into privilege identity management. I would say the whole identity management, like governance and identity security, with automation in place, so that we can cover later on in the subsequent months. I'm planning for a few more sessions, but this five first features we'll try to cover during the demo. Okay. Okay, the features are quite nice. Anyone has got any questions around these features before we move ahead? As new questions, okay. Enforce privilege. Okay, we'll go for the next topic. Enforce principle of least privilege. This has been in place in our industry for a long, many years, since many years, but not really truly observed, because the configuration aspect of Azure PIM and also the governance, these two things were quite customized to certain applications within different organizations. That's why it was not easy to really map it across constantly. But now with cloud in place, the configuration has become very standard across the whole cloud, whether it is Azure, Google, or AWS, and hence enforcing least privilege access has become one of the important aspect of identity access management, which is driven by the IAM team. And it clearly means if you don't need access, don't have it. It can be time bound if you need access. If not, better not to have the access. And that's an additional sign off given by the top management that if there are incidents and there is a delay in getting the access, that is acceptable compared to the security breach that can happen later in the anytime during your live application phase, right? So always try to enforce principle of least privilege, and this also applies to production management team. Earlier they were quite an exception. It's important to make sure that you have enforced the principle of least privilege in your organization for both Microsoft Entra ID and Azure rules. So two type of identity management we can do over here. One for an entity called as Microsoft Entra ID, which is nothing but Azure Active Directory, and Azure roles for your Azure resources like AKS and virtual machines. And these are different rules example that I given. If you need to add a user to the portal or remove it, you need a global administrator access. And for billing, if you need to look at the billing, you need billing administrator. Just two simple examples I have given. And for Azure roles, storage, if you have to delete or write a file to a storage account at a very high level, create a storage account, you need a contributor access and virtual machine user access to access a virtual machine and look at the logs in the application. Okay, and both of this have their respective roles. So if you look at these two links over here, these links provide details of what are the different kind of rules that we have for Microsoft Entra, which is nothing but Active Directory, and Azure built-in rule, different rules for different application service. Storage account will have different rules, AKS will have different rule, data science, AI, machine learning, different services will have different rules. Okay. Fine. Coming to the next topic, decide which role assignment should be permanent or eligible. Yeah, this is another very important decision making point, because we have to be very confident about which role has to be permanently given so that you don't use PIM, and which role can be based on eligible. When I say eligible, let me give you an example, right? Right now, I have got a couple of email IDs, so I will give them the access, but as of now, they will not be able to see any resources on my Azure portal. But if I give them a reader access, there is no harm. With reader access, they'll just be able to see the resources. So for a reader access, I can make it a permanent access. That's what it means over here, because they will just have visibility, but they will not have an action or executable or writable kind of access to the portal. That is how I will define that I can give a permanent access. There are multiple kind of such scenarios where you can define if it has to be permanent, then you don't need to use PIM. PM can be mainly used for eligible roles. Like if someone wants to access a virtual machine, shall I give him that access? I don't want to give him by default. If he's part of production management team, yes, but is part of an QA team, or if it's part of a product development team, sometimes he might not need production management, virtual machine access. You might need based on time constraints. So that's an eligibility feature. So he's eligible to access a virtual machine, but he has to activate his access. So that's how we define. I'm giving a privileged access to a virtual machine in an eligibility format. You just need to go ahead and activate it, and the activation might require approval in certain cases. In certain cases, we can define it doesn't require approval. Those are customizable. So that's how we have to decide which role should be permanent and which role should be in eligible mode. And this is very critical because there are a lot of different roles. If I go back to the previous slide, this built-in role, let me see if we can open this. The Active Directory built-in roles, and if you look at this article, right, all those, there are multiple roles. So we have to really have a good handle of which roles we are making it privileged and giving them eligible based access so that a person can activate. Some of them can be reader based access. Same thing applies to Azure roles as well over here. Azure roles are on the different components or services that we have on the Azure cloud, like compute, networking, storage. For each of them, there is a different rule. Again, multiple rules. That's why we have to be very specific, which can be permanent and which can be based on eligibility, which has to be activated as and when they need to access the resource. Okay. So it's again very important to define. Otherwise, it will be too much of effort for IM team and also the people using cloud platform. Okay. As I said, read a permanent role, eligibility based on role. If there are 500 people in a company, as an example, and then you have some members working for a different line of business, or say data science team, one member working for an SRE team, other member working from a development for a different line of business, again, database team, automation team, provisioning team, then we need to really form right groups, and then the members can be added to the group. So a consistent access can be provided to a team with multiple members. Even if there is a new member joining the team, he can get the same number of access to same number of resources for that team. That's how using a group is a very important aspect. But one thing to keep in mind is if a group has got an administrative access, a new member who is joining the team who is still in the learning phase can also get an administrative access. That's where within group also you can have an data science read-only group, data science admin group, and then accordingly you can shuffle people across. And the most important thing is that group ownership can be with the application owner or the team owner, so that global administrator or the administrator of the cloud platform doesn't have to manage. When I say 500 member team, it doesn't have to manage 50 or 60 or different groups, right? The group owners can take the responsibility of managing the groups and members within the group. That's how efficiently we should be able to map the roles and use PIM. Okay. So manually keeping track of who is assigned to a role and managing their assignment based on when they need it can take time. Hence, first create a role assignable group and then assign the group as eligible for a role. As an example, if someone is from production management team, he can have virtual machine user login access by default given in a permanent mode, but he's from a development team, I'll give him eligible mode, but to the whole group so they can activate it. Group members activate. Again, when we say we give access to a group for eligibility in PIM, activation is still individual member. It's not at a group level. So if there are 10 members in the group, they still have to go to their own identity management section in on the cloud and activate their access to access a virtual machine. We'll come to that also during the demo. The group isn't activated, just the user's group membership is activated. A group owner can manage membership for a group members. Okay, as we discussed. We're almost 30 minutes in a session. I need at least 25 minutes to 20 minutes for a demo. I want to keep it more in time for demo, not much of theoretical. Okay, so we are into the last theoretical slide. Hmm. How to start using PIM. When we are using Microsoft Entra rules, again, Microsoft Entra is nothing but the Active Directory. This is a new name that we are given as Active Directory. We have to first configure Entra rule settings. There are some links that are provided over here. We have to give eligible assignment, as I mentioned earlier in this example over here. Administrator, brilliant editor. These are the two different roles. We have to configure who will get that role, which group will get that role. That's what they mean by configuring and giving the eligible assignment. Allow eligible users to activate their Entra ID role just in time. Again, if they want to see what is the billing of the whole portal, they don't need it 24/7. They're not going to monitor. They just can go and activate it, look at the billing for an hour or two whenever they have a meeting or they want to present something, get some data, and that role can be deactivated. That's a simple example. And PIM for Azure rules, as you mentioned, Azure rules like virtual machine login, AKS cluster access. Those again can be configured. Last three steps remains the same. The only part is discover Azure resources. So if you have multiple Azure resources, those has to be discovered by the PIM to start with. In a subscription, how many resource groups? In resource group, there are how many resources? Once those discovery mode is enabled, the PIM tries to connect to the resources and helps you to start configuring the access for the resources. We'll come to that when we do the demo. I'll show at a high level. Okay. So that's about it. I think most of the slide walkthrough is done. We can surely go to the demo. Before going to the demo with 25 minutes approximately in hand, any questions, anyone?
I think we're fine, Shailesh. So, once we see the demo, I think we'll have more idea.
Great. Thank you very much. Fine. Let us go to the demo now quickly. Okay. For this email ID, Sharath, you are there on the call or you are left? He was going to leave. So I'll add Karthik. Karthik, you're there on the call, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll show everyone on this call. First thing is I'll try to give access to Karthik. Okay. This is one way of onboarding a resource to Microsoft Entra. So this is my own portal where I do a lot of projects. So we go to Microsoft Entra ID over here, users, and Rajesh. Rajesh, if you're on the call, meanwhile, I will try to add Karthik. Can you confirm if you got an invitation email in your Gmail ID, in your inbox? I will add Karthik meanwhile. So everyone, this is the Microsoft Entra ID default directory. I always suggest everyone to go through all the services over there. Look at these different categories. It will give you a good feel of what are the different resources are there on the cloud platform. Go to identity management, and over here we have this different identity management. This is the one that we are discussing today. There are a lot of different features. Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management. But if we
Sorry to
really
interrupt, Shailesh. We are unable to see your screen.
oh, screen sharing is stopped, let me share it again. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so earlier it was
Yes.
showing presentation, right? Now we can see the screen. Presentation was visible, right, earlier?
Yes, it was visible.
Okay, great, no problem. I'll share the entire screen now. Okay, so I'll come back again to this home page. If you go to more services, these are different categories, and we should refer to the identity for today's section. And this is the privilege identity management that we had a walkthrough, and we'll have a demo of now. Okay, and the Microsoft Entra ID that I spoke about is this one. This is the central Active Directory, now renamed as Microsoft Entra, where we have the details of all the users who are nothing but different identities added to the central directory. And then there are groups as well. I just created some simple two groups: read only group, read write group, just to give an example. And the users, I have given some access. So right now I'll try to onboard Karthik, and he should get an email with an invitation. I will add him as an external user. So Karthik, this is your Gmail ID. Refer your name. Yes. Just put my email ID so that I can confirm that you got the invitation email. I'll ensure that your email address is added over here so that you get any notification email. Ideally, by default, it should be added. On assignments, I'll not assign any role to you for now. I'll just extend this invite to you. You are assigned as a guest over here. Okay. So this is how you onboard a user, or simple just add a user to the Microsoft Entra ID or Active Directory. Once the user has been added, we'll go to the privilege identity management section as well. Rajesh should also have access, right, to unmute himself. I'm not sure if Rajesh is on the call.
Yes, I am here and able to
Yes.
access now.
Great. So you got that email, right, with the invitation?
Yes, I
Right?
did.
Great. So Karthik, you should get this email. Default directory invited you to access application with their organization. So this is my organization right now, and this is my domain. This is how I have invited you to Azure portal. So Rajesh, can you confirm, are you able to see any resources?
No, I cannot see any resources.
Correct. So you cannot see any resources, hence we'll go ahead and give you some role. And as we discussed earlier, I'll give you an reader access role. Okay. But before giving a reader access role, there is a step that we have to take care. As we mentioned over here, we have to first discover the Azure resources. Microsoft Entra ID configuration on the role settings is for particular role, so we are not going to do that. First, we'll discover Azure resources. Since I've been using this for a long, I have already discovered the Azure resources, and this is how it looks. Let me see if I can zoom it a bit. So we go to PIM, I'll show you. Over there, we just select the subscription resource group and then we say manage resources. That's a simple way of telling the PIM that now start privilege identity management for my subscription, or even you can further drill down to resource group if you don't want to do for every subscription or any all the resources. So for that, we go to Azure resources over here. I'll go to the old mode. Yeah. Over here, I can select the subscription. In my case, I can see the screen because I've already discovered the resources. But in your case, when you're doing it for the first time, when you select the subscription, over here, there are discover resources options. Right now, I don't see any because I've already selected all of them and my subscription has been already discovered. But you should be able to select the subscription and then say manage resources. This means you're configuring your subscription, resource group, or entire resources in the subscription to be managed via PIM. Okay, so this is the first step that we have to take care when we have to start with PIM. And this is the first part of the demo. So Rajesh and Karthik, later on, if you want, since you don't have P2 license, but this is something anyone with P2 license only can do it because this is how you enable privilege identity management. Okay. And in my case, the resources have been already discovered. So we'll move to the next step. So the next demo, I'll just fit to the window now, is about role assignment. Right now, Rajesh and Karthik both should not be able to see any resources. So I'll give them a role assignment, and that would be reader role assignment, right? Okay, so I'll go back to, I intentionally always go back to privilege identity management, identity over here. I need to give them access to Azure resources right now. So I'll go to Azure resources. This is the subscription. I can give them access at a subscription level. I can give them access at a resource group level. I can give them access at a resource level also. To make it more easy for them, as of now, I'll give them access at a subscription level so that they can see all the resources. Okay, assignments. I'll go to add assignment over here. I'll see reader role. Select the right subscription. Yeah. So I'm giving them global reader access. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give them global reader access on the Entra ID. Okay, let me add them. Rajesh. Karthik, did you get the invitation email? You are able to log in?
Yes, Shailesh, I'm able to accept the invitation, but I'm seeing my apps page instead of Azure portal.
Okay, just select the home directory after this is done. Okay,
Okay.
fine. Let me complete this step and then we'll come back to it. So if you look at this assignment, I just selected the global reader role so you can read all the resources, and then I am selecting over here eligibility as permanent. So this is how I make this reader access to you guys permanent, and I am assigning it to you. Now it is just starting to assign it. Okay. Now can both of you just refresh your screen and see if you are able to see the resources? Meanwhile, I'm doing the same with one of the test users I've created. So if everyone look at my screen, there's a test user I've created on a new domain. I've got my own domain of Let's Sail Together. That's the website that I have. And over there, I'm giving access to one of the resources. Right now, this is that user portal. Okay, that user portal doesn't have any access to a resource. He has got login access because I have invited him the way I invited Rajesh and Karthik, but doesn't have access to any resources. Now I'll try to give him access the way I given to Rajesh and Karthik, and we should be able to see the same. Again, I'll give him the permanent eligible access. The first indication of that user getting an access is he gets an email. So over here it clearly says that I've assigned a global reader role in the default directory, and they should get an email with an assignment type eligible, but it's a permanent access because I'm not given an end date. Okay. Rajesh and Karthik, can you check if you got an email with this information saying that you have been assigned a reader role?
Let me check, Shailesh. 1 minute, please.
Sure, no problem.
Not yet, Shailesh. I received only the invitation email.
No problem. Sometimes it takes a while to activate it. I've seen that in the past, so that's fine. At least you got the email, right? So at least that shows that you have got the right access. Okay,
Yes.
you'll get that. Yeah. So I've given you the Entra ID. Okay, Rajesh, can you also try to see if you got access to Entra ID? So try to look out for Microsoft Entra ID. If you can look at my screen, yeah, at least you should get access to this one, and you should be able to see the users. Try this out. Karthik, Rajesh, both. Any luck in seeing the users in the Entra ID? That should work. See, because I also tried for my this user that I just gave the access. I am able to do that.
For
Anyone else
me,
want to try?
for me, it is
Yeah.
showing like no subscriptions got associated with your Active Directory. That was the warning message popped up on top right corner.
Yeah, subscription would not be associated as of now. So you can go to home directory and try to search Entra ID.
Okay.
So I have given you global reader on the Active Directory. So if you can look at my screen right away, go to home directory, click over here, search Entra ID over here. Okay. Can you see this Microsoft Entra ID? And try
Yeah.
to open that. You should be able to see this. Okay.
I'm able to see that screen, but
Great.
users are showing empty. Like I'm able to see the default screen, overview screen, but users groups are like empty.
Correct, correct. That's fine because I've just given you basic reader access. So at least you are able to access the Intra ID, right? Now I have given you access on the subscription as a reader mode. Okay. So if you look at this is a subscription. In the subscription, if I select role as reader, because previous identity manager doesn't have this, I given Karthik and Rajesh, both of you, reader access to the subscription. What does this mean is now you should also have access to the resources. So if you can go back to the home page, okay, and then try to click on subscription. If it doesn't work, try to sign in, sign out once. So if you look at my screen over here, this is a user whom I just gave access, the second user I have as Chaskar, and it is able to see the subscription now. So in your case also, if it doesn't work, just try to log in, log out. So this is a way to give a permanent access. Smita, since we are doing this demo, right, and I can quickly walk through, but we want to make it more interactive. A couple of people are trying. So going a bit above the time is okay?
Yes, it's fine. Take your time.
Perfect, no problem. Anyone else on the call who wants to try? Because two people are already trying, they have similar kind of observations. I'm more than happy if anyone wants to try. So because eventually I will also give you access to virtual machine and you should be able to also log into virtual machine. And over there, you should be able to activate the role. So that will give you a real feel of PIM, how it is eligible, how it is activated once you get access. So even giving this global reader access is part of PIM, giving me them access to my portal. Giving them access to the subscription is part of PIM again, giving them a permanent access, but a reader mode. So that is less harmful again.
Yes, Shailesh,
Yeah,
I'm
Rajesh,
able to see the resources. Yeah.
perfect, 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 great. So now if both of you can go back to more services, click on identity. Okay, if you can follow my screen, then click on privilege Entra identity management. Okay, and then click on my rules. Well, I just start the virtual machine I have created yesterday itself so that we can go ahead with the next step. Just paste the link. If you want, you can directly go to this link as well. Here, in your case, you should be able to see the assignments, right? And the assignments in the active assignment should tell that you have a reader role which is activated. If you see my screen, this is the same user who I invited and he has got the access the way both of you got it. Great, virtual machine has been started. So if I go back to the demo, we discussed about the first step of the demo, which is discover him. Second thing, we discover the permanent role, which is a reader role right now, what they're trying to test it out, and eligible. Now eligible one, I will try to give them the access via virtual machine and try to get that thing tested out. And let me show you how to give them that eligibility rule access. So I'm going to my main administrative login over here, going to Microsoft Azure Home, more resources, identity. I'll go to privilege identity management. Over here, I now want to give them access to virtual machine. So I go to Azure resources. I will select the resource group. I have my VM in this resource group. Give them access. So the access would be virtual machine user login. So they can log into their virtual machine. I'll select two members, Rajesh, RJS, and Karthik. I'll not give to the member that I'm trying right now. So next I'll give them eligibility based, and this eligibility will be only for 1 day. Right. Assign. Okay, Karthik, Rajesh, I have given you both virtual machine user login rule. Okay, just check your email if you have got that invite. And the invite should be something like this. Let me show it to you. I tried this yesterday. You have virtual machine. You should get this kind of email. Instead of storage account contributor, it will be virtual machine login in eligible mode. Any luck?
I haven't received mail, but I'm able to see the virtual machine.
Great. You're able to see the virtual machine, right? Great. Okay, good. So that means one eligible type action, but you will not be able to log in. For that, first we need to enable the storage account creation so that we can do it via Cloud Shell. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of more rules: storage account contributor, and I have created one custom role. So everyone, I'm also trying to show you that we can create custom role. Okay, why I'm trying to create that custom role is Rajesh or Karthik, can you go to your home screen and try to click over here on the Cloud Shell? Okay, and when you get this Cloud Shell login, click on the advanced settings. There is already a resource group. Try to create a resource over there. And you should get this error, the one that I got. does not have authorization to perform storage account write over the scope, and the scope is nothing but the storage account. Thanks, Karthik, for sharing screenshots. So great. So you are able to see the eligible assignments for global reader. Good. That's fine. So the demo is, yeah, subscription also you are able to see. Great. Yeah, Rajesh, I'll show you how to request PIM. I'll show you that. Great. Perfect. So Rajesh, you also got this error, right? This error is, it clearly means that you cannot create a storage account because you don't have the access. Now I will give you both an access to storage account creation. Okay. Again, this will be based on eligibility. You should get an email after that. Let me do that. And this also proves how the assignment works in your case. So I will go back to privilege identity management, go to resources. I will give you this access on the resource group. But yeah, because you want to create on the resource group. Assignment, add assignment. This will be storage account contributor. The right role that you want. Yeah, storage account contributor. Let's select Rajesh, Karthik, and Rajesh. Great. I'll also select my ID over here so I get that access. Again, eligibility based, eligible only for some time, for 1 day, assign. So both of you now are unable to create storage account because you don't have the role. Okay. Now, if you can go to privilege identity management, I'll go back, go to privilege identity management, go to Azure resources, my roles. In your roles, click over here on the Azure resource. If you can look at my screen, right, on the Azure resource. Here you should be able to see eligible assignments for yourself. I'll go to my another account and I'll show you how it will be seen. Go to my services, go to identity, privilege identity management, my roles. In my role, select Azure resources, third option in the activate section on the left hand side. Here you should be able to see eligible assignments. That's correct. Perfect. Rajesh. Now you have to activate the second role, storage account contributor. Click on the activate storage account contributor over here. And you should be able to see the screen which says validating your request. And then here you can select 1 hour for activation. And I hope you all should get email because see, I'm getting the email in my case also. I given storage account contributor, I got email. Check your spam. Sometimes it goes into spam. This is the first time that you're enabling, right? So it goes into spam also. So you guys are able to validate what kind of assignments you have, whether it is eligible for which role. Great progress. Select just 1 hour, not more than that. Write a reason that PIM demo test or just PIM demo as your reason. Click on activate. Karthik, thanks for confirming. Great. So you guys are getting the email. Perfect. So again, all these emails are part of your audit trail also, and very easy for people because I'm also getting emails for every action that you're trying to do based as an administrator. If you look at my email box over here, see, I can see Rajesh has the global reader. He also tried to as a contributor. As a Karthik, you are already activated storage account contributor. I can clearly see that. So this is the other aspect I said about audit trail, right? And even I activated storage account contributor. Now, if you can go to your Cloud Shell, let it get activated, it will refresh your screen as well. So we are on to step number 3 and 4 now of the demo. And my screen got refreshed. I'll again click on Cloud Shell and try to create a storage. So when you're clicking on Cloud Shell, you'll get a shell, but that shell obviously needs, okay, Karthik, and see you can you have already created a storage account, I suppose. Let me look at the resources, group by resource. So Karthik, both storage account as well as file share, you can try to rename both of them. I think for Karthik it is still creating. I'll try to create one for myself. Rajesh, everything good for you? Or you're stuck somewhere? Perfect, Karthik. So I can see in your case, you have created the storage account. Good. Great, Rajesh. Thanks for confirming. Rajesh, but I can't see your storage accounts. Not sure if you have created it. You're able to see your Cloud Shell because Cloud Shell will be helpful for us to log into the virtual machine. Yeah, give it a try, Rajesh. So because via PIM, I gave permanent access to Entra ID. I gave permanent access to the whole subscription resources, but those were reader mode. Via Cloud Shell creation, what we are trying to say is we are giving you elevated access. A contributor is a very elevated access, so you can create a storage account. So that proves that your eligibility is getting activated and you are able to access also. That completes our demo, showing both permanent and eligibility access. So in my case, I was able to create the storage and I got access to Cloud Shell as well. Karthik, so should be you. So I can see two accounts. Great. You are able to log in, right, to Cloud Shell?
It is building some Azure drive. It is in progress. Yeah, now I'm
No
able
problem.
to see. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Good. So now let us try to access the virtual machine. Okay. Since I deleted it yesterday, that's okay. Rajesh, I will give you a virtual machine login command. Give it a try. So that will prove that you are able to log into the virtual machine. Okay, give me one moment. Let me figure out that command. SSH. Great. So Azure VM list. You both try to run this command. I just want to ensure that the list is getting created perfect. Okay. Great, Rajesh. Thanks for confirmation. I think just we are one step away and then we should be done with the demo. Our attempt is to connect to the virtual machine. Okay. I'll just take the VM name quickly and pass it this command. Paste, and I think it also needs resource. This one. Resource support. Great. There's one hyphen missing. That's one. You both are able to see the VM list, right? Perfect. And now try to log in to the VM. This is a command. So from the VM, I just took the VM name. We need the resource group and then just SSH to that VM. In my case, I don't have the access because if I look at my roles, I don't have active assignments or eligible assignments for virtual VM user login. So this proves that I cannot log into the VM. I can just list the VM because it's a reader role, but I cannot log in. I want you both to confirm that you both are able to log in. Perfect, Rajesh. Thanks for confirming.
Shailesh, like,
So
can you check the screenshot that I'm getting? Like, there was a public key error while I am trying to log in.
your login is not successful. It is still permission denied. Have you activated VM user login? Let me check.
Let
I
me
don't.
do. Okay.
No, you're not activated. So that's the whole point, right? You are able trying to log in, but you have eligibility, but not activation. And I don't see any email from you. So that's how
Okay.
I can very easily confirm that you're not activated. Hence, it is saying that you don't have permission.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks.
Rajesh, can you also try? I think you're also not activated. So you both have got this virtual machine user login role. You have to activate that role. If you have that email, go on the email. There should be an option over here, view detail. From there also you can try to activate. It takes you to the link where you can activate your role. Rest of them, anyone has got any question? I think we are going good with the demo. And this is the last step because I really wanted them to log into the VM that proves that we are good overall. And this is how we really test. And once we test one or two kind of roles in permanent mode, eligibility mode, activation mode, it's just matter of then planning across different groups, across different roles, whether it is for Active Directory, whether it's for resource, everything. Okay, Rajesh, give it a try for login. Somehow I don't see your email. Karthik has just activated virtual machine. So see, I can see that email from Karthik. He just activated the virtual machine user login. And yeah, Rajesh also activated now. I got both of your emails. Perfect. Great. And now you
I'm
should be
able to
able to
log
log
in.
in.
Yeah. I'm able
Perfect.
to log in. Yes.
Great, great, great. So you understood the whole concept, right? I, as an administrator, can give you access. I can give you permanent access like reader role. I can give you eligibility based access, which you just have to activate based on the time that we have set. Perfect, Karthik. Good. For Rajesh also, perfect. But Karthik, if you look, you try to do a VI, you might not, or do a cat, you might not be able to write because I've given you read only access. So that's another way. It's just matter of giving you administrative role and you have to activate that. But overall concept is proved over here. Okay. So if I go back to the demo, Rajesh, give it a try. I'll wait for 2 minutes. I'll also quickly touch base upon the custom role. So whatever we did right now, similar thing works for custom roles also. To create a custom role, we should just go to the resources where we have to create the custom role. In my case, I created custom role at the subscription level. I go to IAM. Over here, if you look at this option, go to any resource, there is an option to create a custom role. I have already created one custom role and I tried that role. If I go to role assignments, type of role, if I select over here, sorry, role all, scope, group by role. Rules, sorry, this one, yeah. And here, if I select custom role, this is the one role that I created it myself yesterday. What this role does is, if I create a custom role, it allows me to read the resource in the resource group and write or create any resource in the resource group. So custom role is nothing but you can merge different actions together and create anything customized for you. I can also assign this role and I also can permanently or assign this role based on eligibility model. So this is another way of saying if a team doesn't require certain access, you can customize their access. It's a very powerful way of giving access to a team with what they require. And this is in line with the least privilege access. So that's the most important thing to understand. Yeah, perfect, Rajesh. Appreciate it. Thanks for extending, but glad you are able to log in and able to understand how PM works. Thanks a lot, Rajesh. So we talked about custom role at a high level. Eligibility we already discussed. You guys were able to see the eligibility. PM audit history. So Karthik, if you can go to your eligible role, below there is an audit history tab. Over there it shows how much time you have logged in. Let me do that for you. So if I go to Azure Active Directory, I go to PIM and my audit history. Correct. I can see everyone's audit history, how many times they were able to log in. Over here, I should be able to see Karthik's and Rajesh audit history for sure. Over here. So as an administrator now, I have all the records of how many times Rajesh tried to log in with which role and Karthik tried to log in with which role. And this is very important for us when it comes to audit trail. And this is how the audit history can be maintained. This data of the audit history can be then via Azure function downloaded and set into a server, into a storage account or any drive so that you can save it for your audit trail. Okay. That's it. One last important thing is identity score. So what we did today is using privilege identity management. If you use privilege identity management and on top of that something called as governance, you will be able to improve the identity score of your portal or of your platform that you're using. And this is another important thing that auditors look after. When I was working in the current organization, we had a very low score, but over the period of time when we got used to PM, we reconfigured custom role groups, the score really went high, and they really show a very good comparison that if you are a team of 1 2 or company of 1 to 100, 500, this should be your customer, this should be your identity score. They don't expect identity score to be 100 or 90, but they expect it to be close to a practical number. And this is another good representation of how your security posture is when it comes to identity management. Okay. I don't want to stretch it too far. Actually, we have gone beyond the time. Which roles? Some quick Q&A. I think few people are left around. Can someone help me to answer, right? Which roles can only be assigned using privilege identity management? Can we assign permanent roles? Can we assign eligible roles or transient roles? Anyone can post in the chat or can verbally just tell me. A quick Q&A for everyone.
I guess transient roles.
Okay. So Karthik, transient roles, actually, if you look at right demo also and the way we have worked, we haven't talked about transient role. It was just to create a
Uh,
confusion. So mainly it's eligible role. So PM helps you to give the eligibility, and permanent role also can be assigned, but normally we go to this resource and then assign a permanent role. So the answer is eligible roles. Mainly it
Yeah,
is to give eligibility. So this is the right answer over here. Okay. Next question. Whether to assign a role to a group instead of to individual users is a strategic decision. Assigning a role will help us to manage, assign a role to a group, sorry, to a group will help us to manage. Will it help us to manage single Azure resources, multiple Azure resources, or multiple users who need same permission? Which is the right answer? Anyone?
C. Multiple users who need same permission.
Correct. That's right. So that's another important aspect of using groups. Very important. Okay, if I go quickly to my introduction, we are done with this. We are done with QA as well, and we are done with the demo. All done. Good. So I'll just mark each of them over here. Anyone has got any questions to be asked? See, this demo, it was a bit lengthy, but I wanted to make it interactive. So anyone who was not able to do the demo, feel free to touch base with me offline. I can help them. Yeah. Someone had any questions?
Salish, one final question I have. So
Sure.
please bear with me 2 minutes. So for
No
suppose I'm working for a startup. So we do have like 200 plus employees. So
problem.
how we can incorporate this PAM? Let's say 200 members, right? 200 members will work for different projects. So some might have permissions for couple of resources. Some might have resources for only storage account, global reader like that. So how can we
Right.
plan for an at an organization level? So we touch base for 2 to 3 users. PM is fine. So how can we think through for an at an organization level? Can you share some insights on the same?
Yeah, surely. Why not? See, yeah, I am over here in demo. We touch base with 2 users only, right? But same thing, if we go on a large scale, it has to be combined in a group. So in your organization of 200, right? If there are say 5 teams or 6 teams, identify the number of members in every team, form a group for them. And earlier, as I mentioned, one group can be read-only group, other can be an admin group. Within that business line of business of that team also, as an example, data science team or database team, right? Over there I can form group and then give them access to the group. Okay, don't give to the individual. Right now I gave it to the individual. I also have read write group, so I tried that as well. So if I give access to the read write group, it means anyone who needs that similar kind of access, I just need to add him to the group. I don't need to change any access, and if I change any access, it will be implemented or explicitly it will be for every member of that group. So in your case, it should be at a group level. That's what I suggest to you, because in my current organization we are like a team of almost 300 odd users, and that exactly what we did. We created multiple groups and we gave access at the group level, and we add members to the group and we remove members from the group when they leave the team, leave the company, or shift across the different line of businesses. Okay.
Okay, yeah, got it. So same member can be in multiple groups, right? It's not a problem. Like one member.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you look at the group, right, over here, you can see their role assignment. So whatever role this group has, if this group has 5, the other group has got 10, he can be part of both the groups. He can get 15 access also. So that's absolutely fine. You can have group for SRE, for DevOps, for developer, for product manager, even for vice president, senior people who want to just look at the billing scorecard or look at the portal for some different reasons. Even some of us senior management had the access. We gave them billing reader access so they can just look at the charts whenever they want. Eventually we migrate to Power BI, but yeah, that's another way of looking at it. So it's group at a very basic level. I will encourage that for you because it works wonder. You can do identity governance, access review as well. That's another important. Access review at an individual user level is difficult, but at a group level is easy. And there is another advanced topic in this, which is called as catalog and access packages. So catalog is nothing but group of roles for group of application, group of resources. You can form a catalog. The way we have catalog for when you go for shopping, right? There's one different shelf for different category of food item, different shelf for different category of cloth items. Similarly, you can create catalogs. There's an additional enhanced feature which is under identity governance. So I'm planning for a few more sessions in the month of Jan for identity governance that will cover that catalog. But that is a bit advanced because over there you have to really plan what kind of access which people which team has got, and that catalog has to be maintained, and then the access package defines the policy and the role that catalog has access to. Okay, I'll say start with group, that is more easy, and then evolve over to the access package and catalog down the line.
Okay, Shailesh. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anyways, you can touch base with me offline. I can really guide you if you need some more information. But this is very good feature, and to be frank, I did not see this feature available in Google. So that's one advantage. Since I know Google also, Google there is identity management, some good features, but not the way this identity governance and access PIM management works with just-in-time access. So these are very good features. Okay. Fine. Anyone else? Any other questions? No, great. Smita, sorry again to extend this by 25 minutes, but I just wanted to make the demo interactive. Otherwise, I could have finished on time, but that really helps. That's why I extended it out. And that's me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your valuable time and sharing this knowledge with us. It was really very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Hope this was helpful.